I've been thinking, and how does one reduce an A down to just 3 notes? Harmonic analysis isn't enough because there are aspects to the information. This gets technical. Sound propagates in our universe as we perceive it as a 3-dimensional movement simply because of our universe. Sound characteristics themselves can be expressed in a 2-dimensional graph, amplitude and frequency. It's just a coincidence of the structure of the universe that these 2-dimensional waves are forced to take a 3-dimensional aspect. But no information essential to sound is gained from that 3-dimensionality. I want to be very clear here. So, what we have in an A is an object which very much contains information along that additional axis. So mere harmonic analysis is not enough, but spectrographic analysis isn't enough. We had to break it down. But what does that imply, breaking it down into parts? But that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to cohesify. We wanted to congeal parts into a whole. And that's kind of an inverse process, not a reverse process. You can't just unsmash part of A, right? What we want to do is rebuild the A through its constituent elements in those 3 dimensions. And that involves, think of an A, what defines an A? From the outside to us is its curve. Show me an uncurved A. You can't. And I pity the cloaca of any egg layer of a reptilian or avian bent that had to lay cuboid eggs. It would be unfair. You know, that's the kind of thing that doesn't occur. But this curvature, what other things in a 3-dimensional space demonstrate this quality of curvature? And the obvious example is space itself in proximity to large gravitational forces. The gravitational perturbation of the sound wave in 3 dimensions can give us the additional access of sonic information we need to encode the A. Great. We said in 3 notes. We didn't say in 30 billion sound pixels. The playback devices to effectuate this additional access of information are complex. They include biological components that are not easily sourced. They are not easily developed ad hoc from scratch. I have been working for some time on this, but I don't want to say scratched the surface, but I have not scratched the other side. When I scratch the surface, it will be as I come up on the other side of the world from the ground, pulling the ragged, bloody flag of my victors. I don't know why I call them victors. Because in my slaying of them, they shall prevail. I die so that others might live. Anyway, the research has to go in cycles. The mainframe that I batch into is used by the authorities. There are certain hours that are in the middle of the night where I am, but I don't want to say it, but it rhymes with Helsinki. It's, obviously a different time. And peak hours, So I have a lot of questions about that. Because if hours can have a peak that can be measured in an amplitude of time, then we can encode that information and the trowel of the time itself into this 3rd axis. And if we can do that, then we might be able to, you know how like a spectrograph you can break down an image and get it played back, a sound curvature for the compressions in the air, the pressure that compose sound. And I can't just play it in this room and you hear what it sounds like. For one, half the equipment in the other room is off right now and the shielding is down. The mainframe access to process is not available because of bell safety time. Peak hours, so I can't demonstrate. And it would be it's like if someone was trying to show you a Nintendo 3DS in a magazine picture and you're like, see how the screen is 3D, you couldn't. So forgive me for that. Forgive me for that. I just can't see how to do this at scale right now, because if the gravitational density gets too high, even for these short cycles that are needed to encode the Higgs curvature, I assume you're familiar with what happens when gravitational density gets too high. It's a damn good thing that the old well was over there, because if I had to build this at ground level, we would have already had problems. The inertial force, it modulates incredibly quickly, and the first time I turned it on, I'm so glad I did it 1%, because I didn't know you had to tie everything down. You got everything zip tied down. I didn't know. And I had to, it was a perfect double nostril print of my blood from slamming into the ceiling. Just that I didn't have a stiff here, I'd probably be limping still. Anyway, so hopefully tonight was a good run, and hopefully we'll get even better results tomorrow, but what the eggs look like when you're done, it's like, thank God. If we can get it to be non-destructive, if we can essentially scan an egg, reduce it to 3 notes, employ the same curvature on other objects, and reduce their confines into some kind of resolvable pattern that we can then scan with a generative prompt to re-initialize the egg before we even scan it, and this could cause a feedback cascade. And if we can figure out how to dampen that cascade, we can do it at scale. But for now, the resonance is so strong, we're just damn lucky that we had that. It's too early to talk about this part. There is hope that a dampening mechanism could be devised. Just some of these principles are new. But I did find a source of eggs about 3 blocks away. This guy has a coop in his backyard. And a trick that I found is that you can just take a dog out of someone else's yard and put it in the front yard, and they seem to come out. And because the dog starts barking at me. It's bad bark because you're dragging him around, right? But what you do when you take the bag off his head, that's when the homeowners hear the bark. So to them, it's like suddenly there's a dog barking out there, and they don't have a dog, so what's the fuck? They go to the front, I go out back, and I'm not hurting their chickens or taking their chickens. These chickens just clap out eggs. My understanding is the chickens are gonna lay the eggs anyway, whether I take them or not. So really, using Samuel Alito logic, that chair was gonna be empty, that egg was popping out whether I threw a dog in your yard and stole them at 2 a.m. or not. So who is harmed? Like Donald Trump says about not paying taxes. Nobody was harmed. America is not a real place. Why? Nobody was harmed. If there was appropriate taxpayer funding of the sciences in America in 2023, then I wouldn't have to be blowing holes in This is important, and I think if we don't figure this out before the Scandinavians do, it's going to be the end. Because their regional claim on Greenland is strong. And I don't think any of the major world players see the strategic value. The work I'm doing here with this sonic egg encoding is so important to the war effort, and I can't tell anyone because they don't even know that there is a war effort because they don't understand what is happening, and it makes me sick to bleed about it. I think we can actually reverse engineer the production of square eggs once we train the model on the curvature of real eggs. So far we have been using chicken. It's the easiest to get. But if we can get this dampener thing working, we're gonna have to import ratite eggs, and at least 2 of each species have to be viable. It's gonna be so fucking expensive. What am I supposed to do? Start a Kickstarter? Please help me do it. The people who would try to stop me, if they had the slightest fucking clue what I've been doing, would know about it instantly. You're like, well, you're making a 15-minute long fucking YouTube video about it. Those people do not fucking watch YouTube, or they would be in their basement with their well cracking open because they don't understand dampening. These people aren't even watching. Almost no one is. That's how you know that what I'm saying is real. Because if it weren't, they would be trying to stop me. Not even worth their time. But why the fuck should I have to I work 5 jobs so I can afford the parts that I can barely even source when I can't afford them. It takes 6 months for them to get here. Half the time they're counterfeit. The other half of the time they're real, but they don't work. It doesn't matter, they're not counterfeit because the places don't have any fucking guarantees. Because you can't, it's not. There's no fucking warranty on this shit. You know, and sometimes my wife, she's like, why eggs? And it's like, have you... A non-oblate spheroid would not have the correct proportions, and the symmetry would throw off any attempt at dampening. It can't be perfectly round. It can't. We can aspire to attain perfection of curve once we have oblates trained into the fucking model. That's why it broke. That's why there's a big crack in the wall. Fighting about this shit's why I fucking hate her. And I'm sorry, but she was delicious. Open pit barbecue sauce. Usually, I can't taste much through it. I just know that texture is there. You feel it like 3 mouth melts. But this was different. This was like it enhanced the flavor. I don't drench my food in barbecue sauce because I want to enhance the flavor of the food I do, because I want to improve the flavor of the food by making it the flavor of harsh open pit barbecue sauce. But this was different. It was like a fucking symphony. And then I got a big bone chunk in my gum, and I wasn't even fucking hungry anymore, and there was still like a ton left. My son was like, why is there red stuff everywhere? And where's mom? And I was like, I only need to answer one question. I'll give you a 1 for 2 deal, kid. we need one less rat-type egg because her head is actually 30% larger than the ostrich specimen I was hoping to acquire, so that's going well. But it's like, I feel bad for her mom. 30% larger than an ostrich egg? Shit.